We acknowledge and pay our respects to the Kaurna people, the traditional custodians whose ancestral lands we live and work on. We acknowledge the deep feelings of attachment and relationship of the Kaurna people to country, and we respect and value their past, present, and ongoing connection to country, and their cultural beliefs. We extend that recognition and respect to all Aboriginal and First Nations people. Amy And is a podcast that explores all kinds of bookish things, and that can include some pretty adult content. So please be aware that some of this content will be not safe for work or for young ears, and be careful who's listening when you are.
Welcome back to another episode of Amy And. You'll notice that Amy is missing because it's takeover month.
Woo!
I'm here with Payton Hogan.
Hi!
And Abby Guy.
Hi.
I'm pointing because this is where you are on my screen.
You're pointing your screen, but we're recording from my screen. So for those on YouTube, Harry's pointing at the totally wrong people. But that's fine.
I'm now Abby Guy. Howdy! What was your name? Two Shot Abby or something.
Yeah. With that in mind, it's takeover month because this month is Cowboys/Western month, where we are discussing everything Cowboys. And if you have been paying attention to the podcast and listening or watching the last two episodes, you'll see that it's been very cowboy themed. I feel like we put the hats on and it gets silly, and so it's a good thing we don't have the hats on today.
Very true.
Yeah.
Or the leather jackets. Yeah.
Yes. But our book of the month and our book for book club is Amy Barry's Beau McBride, Seven Brides for Beau McBride, which Payton is holding up now. It is the most beautiful cover I have ever seen. So if you haven't laid eyes on it yet, what are you doing? That is out now already. And if you aren't already reading it, we're going to be having a conversation with ourselves, no Amy, next week during book club.
Literally what we do without her.
Yeah, right. But Harry, did you want to explain who Amy Barry is, just in case people listening don't know? Weirdos.
Yes, so our famous host, Amy Matthews, writes under the pen name Amy Barry, and she writes sweeping historical stories about love. So she's fascinated with the landscapes of the American West and their complex long history, and she's even more fascinated with people in all their weird and tangled glory.
And this book is the third in the McBrides of Montana historical Western romance series. And so it features the third McBride brother, Beau. That's a real tongue twister.
Brother
Beau is his favorite. McBride brother Beau. And an urban mill worker, Ellie Neal. So Ellie and her friend Diana answer ads to be the mail order brides of bachelors in Montana. And they don't realize until they arrive that thanks to the meddling of the infamous Junebug McBride, they're both basically engaged to the same man, Beau. And to make matters even worse, there are 5 other women also competing for his hand in marriage. This all begins because Junebug and Beau decide to have a competition to see who can find him the best wife. And so it's just all chaos from there.
It is the most incredible novel.
Oh, I was going to say, I love this book so much. But should we invite her in?
Yeah, let's go.
Let's do this. All right, let's meet Amy Barry.
I should get a book down so I know what I'm talking about.
So opening question, do you ever get sick of writing acknowledgements?
I feel like that you phrased that opening question.
Yeah, it's a bit hard if you have a falling out at some point. You have to go back and look at a book and go, I shouldn't have thanked that person.
Yeah. You just like tear them out of the book in a rage.
Cross it out. And then
social media
just
posts.
Every bookstore you can find and get the Sharpie out.
All readers and fans, please go to line 57 with the Sharpie. and cut that name out of my book.
The new version of the Burn book.
Yeah, but you have a personalized
erasure.
Erasure. Name erasure.
So thank you so much for being here, Amy Barry. It is so lovely to meet you finally.
I know,
I've heard so much about you all. They look so little when you hold them up like that. when they
Oh, I
take
should
so
have got
much
all
time.
three. Yeah.
I think I'm gonna get the US edition of Beau McBride as well. So
Yeah.
then I have them all the
They
same size.
match. Yeah.
Yeah.
Yeah,
I'll give
mine
you
are
one.
matching.
I'll give you one when I get
Well,
one.
I think
Oh,
I've got Kit in the US, I think. Because
yeah.
that
Because
came
they're
out
all different
first.
sizes. Yeah, because
Yeah.
they came out in the US first, so I had
Yeah.
heaps of them.
Mm.
And this time we've got it first.
I know, which I tell you what, I'm going to read this and I won't say who it's from, but I probably should because it's hilarious. I just got a DM this morning, which now I'm an old person. Just let me find my which author account I'm on.
We can put the Benny Hill
Which
theme
is
song in this bit.
which is just like, this like to one of my reposts about Beau. This is giving me major blue balls seeing everyone reading this before we can. It's like, yeah,
Not the
now
blue balls.
now the US can know how the rest of us feel when we're watching
Yeah,
things come out. We have to wait.
Literally.
Yeah.
exactly. We've spoken to authors that we haven't been able to get copies of their books
Yeah.
because
When is it coming out in the US, Amy?
Early next year. I don't have a month yet, but it'd
Oh
be in the
wow, they
first
really
two.
have to wait, losers.
Yeah, they do. They do.
that could
It's a
cause
bit
blue balls.
mean.
Or they could order it from Australia and pay the shipping the way
They
we
could,
have
the way
to.
we have to. Yeah.
Yeah. So I wanted to ask, obviously we've had Kit, we've had Morgan, and
Yeah.
now we get our darling Beau.
You get
What does
Beau.
it feel like to be back for a third time for a book? You've done it,
Uh,
what? One? You've got your Bound for series,
Yeah.
as Tess assumed,
So there's four of those.
four of those, and now you're back for book three in another, like, well, now it's a trilogy.
Yeah. Yep.
What was it like?
It's good. It gets easier to go back, like, because the world's already set up. You all know
It
this because
feels
you
it.
write, like, setting up the world is the hardest thing. Now it feels like I can just step back in there, like it exists, like it's like I can actually get a train ticket and turn up. So yeah,
Mm.
it's like writing it is pretty easy.
I know you probably can't
Returning
tell
home.
us any details, but have you already started working on the next one, or do you have the
No,
idea
I
down
need
yet?
to. Yeah,
Ooh.
I've got the outline. I've done an outline. So it'll be called Charlie McBride Steals a Wife. Yeah. So Charlie will be with us, which is kind of
Charlie.
teased in the epilogue a little bit.
Yes.
Yes.
Yeah.
I've
That
been
was
waiting for
interesting.
this one.
Yeah.
There was
But
so much at the end of this in those last two chapters where I was like,
yeah.
oh
There's a lot happening.
my God.
There's a lot happening.
Like I'm
I feel
getting
like I
so
could write a
much.
whole series just about what Junebug does next, but without any romance in it.
Yeah.
Oh,
Just
and
do
I
the
would read
story.
it. I would read the shit out of that.
I just want to see her at boarding school. I want to see everything she does.
Oh,
Yeah.
boarding school. I was like,
Yeah.
oh,
Yeah,
that
I
would
feel
be
like everyone
chaos.
would read what Junebug does and not
Yeah.
need anything else in it, just
The
Junebug.
greatest spin-off
Jonah,
idea.
Purdy Joe. I'm interested in Purdy Joe.
Yeah.
Yeah.
That was
Haven't
interesting.
quite worked out his story yet because I don't know whether Purdy Joe's his hero or not.
Yeah, that was interesting. That felt
It
like a
would
little
be
like
the first time
gasp.
I've read a romance novel where one of the heroes is named Purdy Joe. Must
Yeah,
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 that's
yeah.
true. Talk
You know
about
what
romance
Purdy
authors
means though,
always
right?
recycling the same names. Not Amy. You won't
No,
see me
no.
recycling a name.
I took Purdy as pretty.
Yeah, that's right.
Yeah, Purdy
Purdy
Joe.
Joe.
Yeah,
Yeah,
like you're very Purdy.
yeah,
Hmm.
yeah.
You got to add the twang
You
and
gotta add
Yeah.
the twang to it. Oh,
Dirty Joe,
that
Dirty
Joe down there,
Harry.
he mighty Purdy.
Can we talk about Beau though, Amy?
Sure.
I found there was a moment in the novel for me where Beau kind of reflects on how everyone sees him as the pretty boy, which I then, the reader, was like, damn, these last two novels, I have just seen him as the pretty boy, and now I feel
Yeah,
called
yeah.
out. But he has actually so much more depth. He's actually way more tender than I expected him to be as a hero. Can you
Yeah.
speak to that at all?
Well, I think he's kind of set up as a fuck boy, right, the whole time.
Yeah.
But the whole time you see him is always through like Junebug's point of view. Um, I think like because even when Maddie or Pip are referring to him, they don't denigrate him at all. They'll say he's good looking or everything, but we're mostly getting Junebug's point of view of him, and
Mm.
she's pretty sour on him because of her fishing rod still, which she just never drops. But I just started thinking about when writing from his point of view, like who would he be? Because you've got the two older guys basically like not to gender it too much, but Morgan's the dad and Kit's kind of been a mum character for them.
Mm.
And then Jonah and Junebug are the babies. So then I was like, well, obviously Beau gets lost in the middle.
Mm.
And he's
Yeah.
kind of totally defined by being pretty. And then I was thinking about how they had lost all these sisters, and I was like, well, they were all in the middle too. So really, he was always surrounded by sisters, and
Mm.
he lost them all.
Mm,
Yeah.
So he's a very kind of lonely guy.
yeah.
Bo's
I
perspective about
found,
the family was sad. That was hard.
yeah,
Yeah, he's a
Yeah.
bit lost, I think.
Mm.
yeah. At the same time, it felt like this book was almost lighter in some ways, partly because of Ellie, because she's just
Yeah, yeah,
hilarious. But also because like I've been thinking about a lot the responsibilities that Morgan and Kit had to inherit and how everyone else has kind of been like the recipients of all of that sacrifice. But it's also nice that by the time you get to Beau's book, he's mature enough to be in this awkward position of understanding how much they've sacrificed.
Mm. Mm.
And then, yeah, we as readers learn about the losses that he's faced that no one else in the family really has to the same extent with all of the sisters passing away.
Mm.
Yeah, there wasn't a question in that. I just like it's nice
yeah.
how each book has a different kind of energy.
They have, yeah, they do. I think that's key. They have a different flavor. I mean, I think one of my weaknesses is probably I would be hard pressed to write the same thing twice. Like, I don't know that I could do it.
Mm.
But then, you know, what's fun about romance is every character is so different, so that you step into once you choose the brother, you realize they're all so different that it's not going to have the same tone. And so they kind of alternate a bit too, in that like Kit and Maddie are just sweet. They're just so sweet in
Mm.
Kit McBride. And then Morgan and Pip are just so hard-headed, and you know, it's like the immovable object.
But then we get to see the
And then,
evolution of those characters and their relationships
yeah,
now in this context because they're all married and Morgan and
Yeah,
Pip are
yeah,
that's
married.
true.
yeah.
And even Pip in the bar when she gets up to leave, I was like, oh my God, that's Pip.
Oh my gosh,
I-
I said to Peyton after I read the novel, I'm not normally invested in these like long series. I don't really read like I one and done kind of the first book is
Yeah, that's why I like them when they're standalone as well, so that you're like, I don't
yeah.
have to read the whole thing if I don't want to.
Yeah, but this was the first time where I was reading a novel and a character came in and I went, I know that
yeah.
character. Like I've just read her hair color and I know
Yeah.
her.
And they didn't
My
name her, and she was really compassionate and like really against the
Yeah.
guy. And I was like, oh my God, she's got no idea, but that's Pip. And Morgan's around, like, oh shit.
I just my favorite bit of their marriage in this book is like when they rock up. So we're giving so many spoilers away, but when they rock up in Bucks,
Do you mind,
and
Amy?
it's fine. And then there's like, you know, the McBride, you know, Pip is like, oh, McBride hellos can take quite a long time. And it's
Yeah.
really like
Just like,
fractious. And she's like, right, I'm just gonna go to the hotel. I'll just
I
leave some
also
shit.
loved when she pulls her in, like when she follows her across and she's like, you're going to go and get your purse? And she's like, no, I'm going to go and get my husband. And then she goes, just brace yourself because this is not going to be very pleasant. And Morgan comes over and I was like, ah, here we go. Oh, so good. But I agree
Yeah.
with like going on from Abby's question there. Beau is obviously so different from his brothers, right?
It's so different. And it's a much lighter journey, like you
Yeah.
said, Peyton. Like it's not I mean, he's got grief and he's got issues, but he's not as traumatized as, you know, Kit's obviously missing Charlie, like part of himself, and Morgan has had that responsibility since he was very young. And also, you know, this feeling that he's not up to it. Morgan's biggest curse is that he thinks like it's kind of a miracle he hasn't killed them all somehow. Um, and then with Beau, it's just much he likes his home, he likes his people. He just doesn't want to be lonely anymore. He wants someone who sees him and wants him. And then yeah, being a kind of like thinking about they're still pretty, you know, het and pretty binary in terms of gender, but having a hero that doesn't fit that kind of mold of being big and strong and I mean, he's still masculine, but he's a different kind of masculine.
Yeah, he really pushed the envelope, I thought, when I read him humming and dancing to himself down by the river at the
Yeah,
start.
yeah,
I was
in all
like,
his
we're
nice clothes.
Yeah, I was like, we're really like pushing the envelope here in terms of what the and showing the range of this family in terms of, like you said, what their like how their context and where they've come from and what their own grief and trauma is, how it's actually shaped exactly who they are. Because he is so different to Kit and Morgan, but
Yeah.
I can picture them all in a line because they also still have those like the McBride family traits.
Yeah.
And
Yeah.
so it never feels like I'm stepping just back in for another McBride brother to be married. It feels like I'm stepping back in to swoon over a different kind of man
Yeah.
and
Yeah.
find out what kind of like what woman I'm going to fall in love with that's going to knock this motherfucker around.
Yeah.
And this is probably my favorite book so far in the series, I will say.
Yeah, it's a lot of people's favorite. It's hard to have a favorite, but yeah, I have to say it's got had an incredible response. So
Hmm.
yeah, I mean, I
Ellie
think
is.
partly though, most people who've read it have read the others, and so a whole lot of work has already been done in the others that you don't have to
Mm.
do then in this
Hmm.
one. So
Yeah.
I think they just get, I don't know, it gets easier to kind of get in the world for everyone, not just me.
I also
Mm.
felt that the like Bucks Creek grew and Bitterroot grew in
That's the
this
plan.
book,
Yeah.
which was really like there felt like a huge payoff there for people that have been following along since the start of the series. Because I was like, oh my God, like now there's all these people here and there's
Yeah.
a lemonade, like there's a soda stand,
Yeah.
like this place is
Spoilers.
growing.
Yeah, I like
Sorry.
that's okay. I like when I started the series, one of the ideas was that you take this place and then over the series you see it grow and become a town, like
Hmm.
from a nothing place. But then, that's part of the problem of frontier stories is that the thing you most love about it is going to be gone by the time it's civilized, right? Like civilized in scare
Yeah.
quotes.
Hmm.
Because like what I like about Bitterroot is the fact there's like trees growing in the middle of the street and stuff, and then it's not very cleared. That is a pretty wild place, but it's
Yeah.
gonna get slightly less. There'll be a main street eventually and all that stuff.
Well, I started getting so attached to it that I started imagining what it would be like with some of the older characters that I find are so amazing. I was like, oh, we're 3 books in. Is there going to be a death? One of these people going to
It's
leave me?
not one. It's not that
Yeah,
kind
I
of
was like,
series. Yeah,
but
it's just not
I
that kind of
can
series.
picture them
Sorry.
all. And I'm like,
Too
they're out in
fun,
the
Harry. I
west.
hadn't even
Like,
considered that.
I know. I kept being worried that there was going to be something darker that was going to happen, even though that's not what these books are about. But I'm so attached to them.
Um, Harry mentioned when he was talking earlier about like going into these novels and being like, all right, which kind of woman is going to be thrown at this McBride man? This
Yeah. What would you guess? Like, who did you guess before you read it? What were you guessing Boy would have?
Oh my
it's
God, that's
Ellie, that's for sure.
The guest
Um,
interviewing the interviewers.
Yeah, I
yeah, hold on.
know.
well, it's hard because like as we've established, a lot of us had misconceptions about Beau as well as like being
Mm.
Yeah,
a
yeah.
fuckboy. So it kind of makes you imagine a particular kind of story. Like who does the fuckboy usually get? It's usually
Probably a
like
Diana, right?
yeah.
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 Well, without reading the book, I would have picked a Diana. But when I
Yep.
was reading the book and I knew the start parts with Ellie and stuff, I was like, oh, here she comes.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Just
As
an
soon as I
imaginary.
read the letters he was writing, I was like,
Yeah.
I know. Poet. He's a
oh,
poet.
I
he's
love
a
that you put
poet.
so much writing into this, though, in the romance. That a lot of the
Yeah.
romance comes from how these people are able to actively get across their emotion in a time where it was really popular to write these types of letters and things. It's so attached to all 3 of the books. And I find that really sweet because it carries on into this one even more because they write such beautiful letters. And Beau can write as well. So I was
Yeah,
like,
yeah.
oh, this is really touching.
I mean, and part of the book is when you talked about lining them all up, is remembering they are all related. And so with each of them trying to, I mean, I don't think it's conscious, but unconsciously, they echo each other. So there's a bit of Junebug in each of them.
Mm.
Kit's probably the least like Junebug,
Yeah.
I think, but Morgan and Junebug are a lot alike.
Mm.
And then Beau and Junebug have that kind of poetic element to them. I guess Kit reads, so that's pretty similar to Junebug. But Kit's like, if they're going from like mild to spicy, Kit's like mild and Morgan's like, I think Charlie's even
Yeah.
spicier though. Like when you meet Charlie, he's much even more grumpy, I think.
Even more grumpy. Oh my God.
Even more than Morgan.
Interesting.
Oh
My
my God.
gosh.
I'm
Rougher
wondering
than all of them.
about that. I'm like, is this man going to be redeemed? Because he needs some redemption.
You don't know his story yet.
I don't know the story
We'll have to
exactly.
find out. My
Mhm.
question though, in talking about Ellie, was going to be when you create these, like, because it's an interesting way of approaching a novel because you already have the series, so you already have the man. So to be
Yeah, that's
very
right.
clear
Everyone
here.
knows who he is.
Yeah, and so you're going into it going, I'm creating a partner for this specific character, which you normally do anyway, but he's, as I said, already established and people already have thoughts on him. So how
Yeah.
did you go to into approaching Ellie as a character? Did you already know from the get-go?
No, I mean, it takes me a while to think about it. And then people have very strong opinions now. Do you know, like the McBrides have a very passionate readership,
Mm.
like very passionate. And I did one book club last year when Morgan came out in Australia. I think it was in New Zealand. It was in New Zealand. I'm going to give them a shout out because they have a group called Junebug McBride for President. Um, and
That
they
is
had
so
very,
cool.
very
When
firm
can I get in
ideas.
this fan club?
Yeah,
Yeah.
they had really firm ideas on who Junebug should be with, and we had this whole conversation. And but it's where you're a bit fraught as an author is they're all different, right? Everyone's got a different idea of who Junebug should be with, and it's a bit the same with Beau. Like people love the idea of Beau, but then you talk to different people, they've all got a different idea of who he should be with. So I really kind of went back to the drawing board when I wrote this, thinking, spending a lot of time on who he is as a person.
Mm.
When you're thinking about it, do you have to kind of put the readership out of your mind in a way, or like
Yeah,
you want to be,
yeah.
yeah? Because I'm
There's
just
a point
imagining
at which
being in a
you,
book club for your book. That would be
yeah,
so weird.
it is weird. It's very strange. And it's a kind of a point of, I think, there's a point at which you just have to go, just trust me. Like if you like everything so far, just trust me that I'll make it
Yeah.
Yeah,
something you like.
exactly.
But then with Ellie, sort of thinking around, someone had said to me they'd really like a bookish heroine,
Mm.
and a few people wanted a school mum. And I was like, not for Beau. That's
Mm.
not Beau's heroine, but there will be a school mum in a book. Like I've got that one's lined up for someone else. But
Oh,
he's just not the type. Like he just wasn't the type. But
yeah.
then it's like you've got to have someone that challenges him about who he thinks he is. Because I
Mm.
think on some level he thinks he could be a fuckboy too, because everyone's always told him he's a fuckboy.
Mm.
Having met a few performers in my life, do you know, like musicians, actors, people who are a little bit out there, they're usually, it's all front. Like they're usually
Mm.
really insecure or really vulnerable or really in search of love and attention. Or so I was thinking about that too, like the kind of person who puts up a lot of front,
Mm.
what's actually going on behind the scenes. And then thinking about actually, this is a man who's known very few women in his life ever. So he might want the chance to be a fuckboy, but he hasn't actually had the opportunity yet. So if you put him in that situation, what would actually happen?
Mm.
And he gets really overwhelmed, doesn't he?
I
Yeah.
would too. If someone threw all these people at me, I'd be like, what the hell?
No, they're all such lovely women.
Yeah. First, I'd like to say that I would have been really happy with just a self-insert book. Um,
Yeah.
that's okay. I'm
Yeah.
glad that we've met Ellie. She sounds lovely. Um, and then yeah, I liked that even though you threw a bunch of women into this town where there hasn't been a lot of like female representation, that they all got along as well.
Yeah. Yeah.
You made a really, really big point of saying that it wasn't this like competitive, nasty like cat fight route, which would have been a really easy stereotypical way to go down and get some
Yeah.
laughs.
Yeah.
But you
It's just
stuck to it.
not my experience of women.
Yeah.
Like you might get one or two people that rub you up the wrong way, but generally my experience is when you get groups of women together, they tend to form friendships.
Hmm.
And
Mhm.
I'm like, well, here you are in the middle of nowhere. You'd probably be glad you're not the only woman in this town full of starved men. And
Yeah.
you'd
Yeah.
probably be glad to find people who understand you. So I just thought that was a more interesting way to go about it.
A while ago, when you were writing the Frontiers of the Heart Tess
Yeah.
Lesue books, you wrote an essay called Entangled, the exegetical process of a romance writer. And you were talking about how to write or publish traditional romances that seek to conform to generic expectations while attempting to embody a feminist ethos. And I was thinking, like, that is kind of a project you've been doing now for
A long
what number is
time.
it? 7 books.
Yeah.
Yeah. So, like, how has that evolved? Because now you're talking about representing masculinities with Beau McBride and all of them really, the ways that they subvert masculinity, hegemonic masculinity, and the ways that they fulfill those and all that kind of stuff. And now we're talking about the relationships between women and how women are represented as collectives in books. Like, it's like a big project. I'd love to know how
Yeah,
much
yeah.
it's changed for you, what you've learned along the way.
Yeah, I still have to do a lot of writing up. So when I wrote that article, the book actually that it's like a proposal article for a project. And so I was writing the frontiers of the heart, trying to fit it into romance, and then I wanted to see what would happen if you put it in the real world, and that became someone else's bucket list under Amy Matthews. So that was like what does love mean once you put it up against the constraints of real life, like death and um, endings. So with these ones, it was really in the frontiers of the heart. I really tried to play around with who gets to be the hero and heroine sometimes. So the first book, not so much, but that was already written, I think, before I started doing this project. The second book in Frontiers of the Heart, I had a mother of five, so she wasn't a young virginal girl.
Mm.
And in fact, the hero was the virgin. And then in the third book in the series, I had a sex worker. And the fourth book in the series, I had like a career woman and the victim of her dime novels, basically, who was a First Nations man. So I played around with how what you could do with it. And it was good because I got some good reviews around Bound for Glory, the fourth one.
Mm.
There were a lot of really good reviews in the trades about how the very real history of the colony came into it. So I played around with that a lot. It was more about the history of things. In this one, I was really kind of interested in, like frontier masculinities because the first thing I was thinking about was homosexuality. The idea that the West was very much a male place,
Mm.
and not always by choice. It was not for First Nations people, for the white colonial settlers, it was very much a place where there were hardly any women at first and a lot of men. And so this idea of the man as being someone who is relaxed in the company of men but uncomfortable with women, and women were kind of othered. So you've got this town at the beginning of Kit McBride where there's literally five of them and four of them are men.
Mm.
And one of them is a girl they've raised to be just like a man, really. So I was really playing around with what does that mean if you grow up with no other way of being other than just this kind of being in the woods with a bunch of other men and no social rules.
Mm.
Um, and what kinds of damage are inflicted on them by gender roles.
Mm.
Because Kit is obviously, a very gentle, sweet, loving, attentive. He reads, he cooks, and then you wonder how much the blacksmithing is his natural thing or whether that's a performance of masculinity. I don't know with him. And then Morgan is had to be the man and is just so repressed and in pain all the time because of it.
Mm.
Yeah.
And then Beau's struggling to find how he can just be himself, I think. So yeah, I've been thinking about it a bit. But I think maybe with these, the most obvious thing is making women's labor visible.
Yes.
Yeah.
Which is so refreshing.
Yeah.
Yeah, it's so interesting to hear you talk about it. I know we get to hear you talk about it all the time, but for our listeners who might not be as engaged in the academic side of things, it's so nice to hear a romance author talk so in depth about these are all of my considerations. It's not just a fun, silly novel, right? Which is what the romance kind of gets. So it's really interesting to hear.
Yeah, we get a lot of dismissal, like no one
Yeah.
thinks behind the scenes. And then you start talking to romance authors and they're just as deep about their work as literary authors.
And speaking of women's labor, I love that there are so many different kinds of women's labor that you put into these novels, whether they're from rural origins or full-blown foreigners, or in this latest one, she works in a mill. And then you have Junebug, of course, who's like forced into the domestic sphere, and her brothers struggle with that as well. I've been thinking about this a lot, like her her rebelliousness and how much she hates that domestic work. I feel her so
Me
hard.
too. I hate all kinds of domestic labor. I hate it.
Yes. And somehow you make it so that I don't hate her brothers for putting it to so well done. Because I can also see that, like, at the end of the day, this is work that needs to be done, and everyone there is working, and she's forced to contribute something that she just really does not want to do at all. I feel so sorry for her.
Yeah, you get. I feel like she'd be happier mucking out the stable than like cooking dinner.
Yeah.
100%.
Yeah,
And making
Yeah,
bread. She
yeah.
makes a lot of bread.
And she just
yeah,
refuses to be contained. Like even they've got a new bedroom for her in the big house. It's all
Yeah.
pretty with a nice bed and a feathered bed, and like she's just like, nah, don't want it. Don't want to be contained. Thank you very much.
I can't wait to
And she's
see her
just
in
as
boarding
wise as the
school.
rest of them. She knows
Yeah,
absolutely everything about it. Like about
yeah.
everything about
She's a
bugs.
little sociopathic. I think she needs to learn a few. She doesn't have a lot of theory in mind.
But yeah, it's heartening to see how her brothers struggle with it as well, in the sense that like they recognize now that in order to thrive in this society, a woman has to be a certain way, basically. And they've given her all of this freedom. And now it's like, how can they take that away from her? But then
Mm.
also, what kind of life is she going to live unless she learns those lessons?
Mm.
Oh, it's
I
sad.
like that though, like one thing I've been thinking about as we, because she grows up a bit in every book, obviously, as we get towards her book, is the assumption that she doesn't already know these things. Do you know, like this is an
That's
Mm.
assumption.
true.
She doesn't know she's in danger. It's like every
Yeah.
woman knows she's in danger. Like, I don't believe Junebug is going gambling with minors and not aware of the dangers.
Mm.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Because she's such a kind of mental chess player. She's not always great at it, but like, I just think there's no way she hasn't worked out a strategy for those things.
Yeah, she does see
Um,
every option in the book, doesn't she? She always knows
yeah,
how someone's going to try and foil her plan as well, and she plans accordingly, like with the mistletoe and stuff
yeah.
like that around places.
And she often gets to the right, it's like math, right? She'll get the right answer, but get the working out wrong of.
Mm.
You gave a paper, I think at a symposium a few years ago now. Not to get too academic here,
But to get academic with
but to
it.
get academic, because it's this podcast, of course. Um, Obviously historical Westerns, you mentioned like it's the frontier, they're settler colonies. And you were talking about the wicked problem and how there's this wicked problem in writing a escapist fun novel set in this historical context. And I was
Yeah.
wondering if you could talk to that a little bit.
Especially like you were saying
Yes.
before about how this town is growing as well over
Yeah.
Yeah.
time, which
Mm.
yeah, is interesting.
Yeah. So I'm not going to remember off the top of my head the people who wrote the article, but we can pop it up on the screen maybe. So in the 1970s, there was an article about housing, complicated housing problems that coined the term wicked problem. And it was really talking about um, you know, something like housing or health or those kinds of things aren't
Mm.
simple to solve because they involve class, race,
Mhm.
geography, like they're just complex problems. And the problem with colonial history is it's such, and contemporary colonies, like where we live right now, is the problems are so entangled and complicated that there's never a simple fix for it. Um, and so when you're writing historical fiction, I mean, it's always fraught. We've talked about this before. Like if you set something in a ballroom in the 19th century in England, you're still talking about a colonial society, even if you're just ignoring it. The thing about once you move to frontiers is you can't ignore the settler colony, like, and
Mm.
the impacts of it. And so I think the urge is there's two urges. One is to pretend it doesn't exist, is to not write about settler colonies, to just stay in the ballroom. And the other one is to try and solve it in some really naff, soft focus way, right? Like to try and find a fantasy solution for things. But actually there is not a solution because it is happening still around us. And so I think for me, part of it is around making it visible. Like I think you
Mm.
just make it visible. And I also try in the acknowledgements and in the book to acknowledge the people of the country, but also some of the complexities of that. So I know Anita Heiss, the professor Anita Heiss here in Australia, talks about don't just dump the kind of your lip service in the acknowledgement. Don't just talk about the First Nations people of your country in the acknowledgement. You want to make sure it's in the book,
Mm.
that you're actually acknowledging on whose lands you're setting your story. Now, the problem with the West is that's really complicated, particularly in places like Montana where the McBrides are set, because the waves of white settlement, starting with the Spanish in the US and the the very early Puritans brought disease and destruction. I think the whalers first brought the flu to the US, like way before even settlement. So you have these decimated cultures long before even anyone even saddles up. But then you also have the expansion westward from the east, pushing different tribes off their country into other people's country and starting wars. So by
Mm.
the time we meet the McBrides, there's several First Nations tribes mentioned. So there's the Bitterroot Salish, the Crow, the Blackfeet, others, and it's sort of become this place of mixed country, like where people have been forced there. And so you get a sense with Junebug's friends, with Sour Eagle and Thunderhead Bill, you get this sense of generations of trauma, of
Mm.
them not quite knowing who their people are. Like a Sour Eagle does, but Thunderhead Bill doesn't quite know who his people are, and he's divorced from his culture and his country. And Sour Eagle obviously has lost everything, and it's this sense of it just being a mess. And so making that very clear, also making clear they're on a trading route, making
Mhm.
clear that that settlement has effects. So I think it's, to me, that's something you can do. Now, I will also acknowledge I am romanticizing the frontier, so I'm part of the colonial problem as well.
This connects so heavily to an idea that you've come up with that it's so clear and concise, which is what
Mm.
you've called Trojan horsing.
Yeah.
Would you be able to describe to listeners what this idea is?
Yeah, I don't know how original it is. And I've used the term for so many decades. I think I've heard other people using it now too. So I should have written in the article a long time ago. But the idea of popular fictions, people like to think of them as kind of just entertainment, right?
Mm.
Or as just reflective of the culture. But actually, I think commercial fiction has always been like a Trojan horse for talking points. It's like it gets people to open the gates and bring it in. But I think you can find topics like abortion have been discussed in romance for decades. And other things too, like all
Right.
kinds of things like, yeah, rape, spousal abuse, different kinds of emotional abuse, financial abuse. You can think of a lot of heavy topics that are actually Trojan horsed inside a piece of entertainment fiction. And so that it's doing work, cultural work, not in a patronizing, like, here, I need to tell you this kind of way,
Mm.
but just in a way of like, oh, this is conversation we're all trying to have that is very hard to have openly because it's contentious. But if you explore it in a story, people are a little bit more open to it. I
Mm.
think, or
Yeah.
it's, or you get kind of salved, like it's comforting as you read it instead
Yeah.
of just being confronted.
Mm.
Do you find writing it as well? Like sometimes I've been thinking about this with my writing too, because I usually start with like an issue that I just really want to talk about.
Yeah.
I think that like it's interesting that I then turn to writing a whole elaborate fictional story to convey that my idea about that issue. It's so gratifying to do it that way. I don't know why, but it's just easier and more enjoyable and
Do you
emotionally
think it's more
engaging than just
complex?
writing
Like,
an essay or
the
something.
the one problem with, I mean, I haven't written some stuff up. The one problem with writing an essay is that you have to be saying something, right? Like you have to
Mm.
have a definitive, even if it's a definitive question or an observation or a statement. Whereas with a novel, it's the novel is very comfortable with the gaps, with the lacunae, with not saying something. And so that you
Mm.
can draw attention to something without having to say anything definitive at all.
Mm.
Actually, that's very true. Yeah, I was about to say I do the opposite that Payton does because I do organic writing. So whenever I write, I'm always like, I then stop and think like, what is this thing
What
about?
is in there?
What is
Yeah.
in there? Because
Yeah.
something's leaking out and I can't understand it. And then I'm like, oh, there it
But
is.
then when we talk to you, you have very lots of thoughts about stuff, right? So
Yeah, yeah,
it's more that you're not doing the connective work, rather like the organic stuff is happening as you're doing this work. You're also talking to
yeah.
us and reading things and having thoughts, and then you're doing this. You're just not doing the connective
Doing
work
the
of the,
connecting straight between
yeah,
it. Yeah,
yeah,
yeah.
not yet. But
Not yet,
I
true.
mean, I don't think I can do it straight away either. Like I think there's a like a
Yeah, I think I don't like.
subconscious part of the mind at work.
Yeah, I don't like sitting with the discomfort of being like, or then it comes off to like
Or it's too simple if you
yeah.
haven't thought it through in the organic
So I'm like, oh, I don't know
writing.
if I like that. So instead, I prefer just to like let it hang out. And then I go, oh my God, I've written
Yeah.
something quite political here. Oh shit. And that's kind of
Everything
comfort.
is politics.
But talking about,
Yeah,
yeah,
I was about to
everything.
say to swing it back to Beau McBride because I feel like Amy Matthews has kind of stepped into
Yeah,
the
she has.
yeah
Fuck off, Amy.
yeah, yeah, to get Amy
Yeah.
Matthews back out the door and
I
Amy
need my
Barry back
hat. Hold
in.
on. I'll put the hat
Yeah.
on.
There she is.
Oh, there she. Oh, she
Hi.
birdie. She birdie.
Um, now after all of that, I have completely lost where my train of thought was going. I was like, oh, Amy's in a
Frozen
hat.
horsing in Beau McBride or
I was going to ask
connective
about
tissue
misconceptions.
in Beau McBride?
Oh, I was going to ask
Misconceptions.
about setting, but go for it, Harry, and then we'll circle back.
I was going to say that going on from like your historical setting and then talking about Trojan horsing and thing, were there also some misconceptions about the West that you wanted to address in Beau McBride?
Yeah, I
Um,
probably haven't done enough of it in this one, but stuff I've been thinking about. Like one is the diversity of the West, that it was always a very diverse place, like
mhm.
Australia actually, even though we have the White Australia policy and stuff, there were always people from all over the globe coming. So even the settler project is not just a white project,
Mm,
like and particularly with gold rushes and money to be made. Here comes capitalism again, Payton.
mm.
But you get people
Play my
coming from
playlist.
everywhere. And then, 40% of cowboys were black. Like
Yeah.
it was not a white space as well. So if you think by the time you have First Nations people and not just African Americans, but other kinds of colored people, like people of color, and you have people from South America and you have people from the Middle East and you just had people coming from everywhere as soon as the gold rushes happened. So
Mm.
the West is just this incredibly diverse place. So I think that's something I haven't done enough with yet that I would like to do more with.
Yeah,
And
like,
then
I know it's the Serbian that was in the snakehead. Big
yeah, yeah,
E, Big Al, whatever his name
yeah,
was. Yeah,
yeah.
and I was like,
Yeah.
this is
That's because
fun.
I was doing some research on because originally that scene was in Butte. I don't know that's how you pronounce it. Butte. I feel like it's Butte. Butte. I should know
Oh.
that.
I've
Butte.
been saying it like that in my head.
Yeah.
So
I was like, his
So
name is
originally,
Bo.
no, Butte Bow.
That is the book
But
that is.
yeah, originally I'd set that bit of the book in Butte, but we changed the timeline, so I condensed the timeline, and then we realized she didn't want to go that far, so let's have her a bit closer.
Mhm.
So then I used Snakehead. But when I was researching Butte, I was looking at like who lived there, what happened, who was running the businesses, and there was just a few bunch of Serbians there at the time. I was like, I never would have known that.
I never would have known that.
That
I
would never have
genuinely
because
love
I
love.
watching the whitewashed 1950s movies and TV shows, you just would not know that.
No.
Amy Barry,
Yes,
do
now
you
that we
have a
remember.
favorite scene in Beau McBride? To ask a really simple question.
Oh, good question. There's a few fun ones. I mean, look, not no spoilers. I can't give this spoiler away, but there is a scene in the woods where Ellie is up a tree, and I really liked that.
Love.
Yeah.
I
that's
won't
my
give it
favorite
away,
too.
but that was when I was writing. The book really took off around then. And her character, I didn't properly answer Abby's question about her character. She like the problem I have often with heroines, probably not Pip, but the others, is they can be a bit passive, my heroines, when I'm in my first draft, like until I find what is their quirk.
Hmm.
Because the McBrides are all super quirky, they're easy. But
Mm.
I think the danger with a heroine is she can just be a bit passive and not drive the action. So with Ellie, she was being a bit passive, and it wasn't until I got the daydreaming that it worked. As soon as you realize, like, and I really liked her the minute people have to kind of go, come on, pay attention, like,
She
come back.
feels so much like Anne to me.
She is, yeah, she's Anne of Green Gables,
Yeah,
basically.
she gets so like wistful and dreamy,
Yeah,
and I'm
and
like,
dramatic,
and
so
dramatic.
So
dramatic.
dramatic.
And she builds these like stories in her head and then begins
Yeah,
to believe them. And I'm like, this is so Anne. And I loved
yeah,
her
she
for
just
that. She became a favorite.
goes off. Yeah.
You know what
So,
she also reminded me of was Northanger Abbey. That's the
yes,
one
yeah,
where
yeah,
she's
yeah.
obsessed.
Yeah, no, I think she was really inspired by those heroines who loved books and loved flights of fancy and stories
Mm.
but it was when I got to that scene up the tree where I really had her down. I was like, oh, I know who this person is now.
Mm.
I've personally really fell in love with the fence scene.
That was my
Oh,
favorite.
that's
That is
cute.
my
That's
favorite.
cute scene.
Good.
Yeah,
I mean,
that is cute.
my favorite scene obviously is further down, with towels,
Obviously.
The bath scene you're
the
talking
bath scene.
about.
But yeah, the fence scene I thought was absolutely brilliant. I could
Yeah,
picture it. I just knew
so
that that would
cute.
work on film as well. Like I was like, in a
Yeah.
movie, I would be cackling watching
They're
that.
just so cute, the
So
two of
cool.
think
them.
the
So much
fence
love.
scene for me is like I know these characters are meant for each other, but the fence scene and Beau's, and I won't talk too much about it so that people read the book. But Beau's kind of behavior towards Ellie in that scene, I was like, oh yeah, these two are meant to be together. Like you can just see how they're
Agreed.
gonna live their
Yeah.
lives
They're just
moving
kind of
forward.
ridiculous. Yeah, you totally can. Like the way you can see, like I can see like Kit and Maddie just being so sweet to each other in their pretty kitchen, right? Like,
Yeah.
here, you sit down and have a cup of tea. No, you have a cup of tea. Like they'll just be sweet. Whereas Morgan and Pip will be fighting and really enjoying it.
Yeah.
And Ellie and Beau, you can just see them having the best time. Like they'll
Yeah.
never be bored. They'll just
No.
They're gonna dance
Be
together
laughing
in
for the
that
rest of their
meadow
lives.
all the time.
There's a
Oh,
scene in the barn later where she's like going into one of her catastrophes, and he's like, "You realize none of this has happened. Like this is all in your head. Like you're upset about something you haven't even." I
eyes on
also
the character.
like when Kit turns up when all the brides first turn up in Bitterroot, and Beau just ends up like Beau and Ellie end up just sitting at a table while his whole family determine his future, and he's just like, "There's no
Yeah.
point. There's just no point."
Oh,
I already want to reread it. I'm like, okay,
yeah.
all of you
Yeah.
be quiet. I'm gonna start
I
again.
can't wait for the audiobook. That's what I
Oh,
want.
it's so good.
I
Oh, I
can't
got
wait because
yeah, I
I just
got
know
to
that's
listen to it,
going to be a
and it's
whole
so
nother
good.
time.
I think the first two books were amazing, but Eva Kaminsky is such a good audio narrator. But in this one, I was so mean. I hadn't realized. So the first book I thought was rough when she had to shift between doing like Maddie's Irish accent and Junebug's kind of hickey way
Hmm.
of talking. But in this one, you got the dinner scene with all those girls. Everyone's got a different accent. Like you've got like
Yeah.
Minnesota. You've got New England, you've got Florida, you've got like Southerners, and she has to switch between every line of dialogue, and
Oh
she's so
my
good. But
gosh.
also amazingly, like there are scenes where, like at the end, where all four McBride boys are in the room together,
Yeah.
and she does their dialogue, and it's like you can tell them all apart. And she's given them all a character. It's just so good.
I
Oh,
don't
I
Highly
know
cannot.
So
recommend.
much talent that someone
Yeah.
Yeah.
can be.
This is
His
a
name.
very random jump. So I'm sorry that I'm not staying track, but I just remembered something I wanted to ask you. When I got to page 14, there's a brief rundown of all the different ads that Diana and Elliot.
Oh yeah,
It's like
Mm.
rancher looking for a pretty little lady, ostler seeking brown-haired sweetheart, widower with kids wanting firm-handed woman not older than 25. And I was
that's that. They're
wondering,
not older than from 25 is from ads. That's from actual
this is
ads.
what I
Yeah.
wanted to ask you is how many of them have you read and how often do you directly quote them?
Yeah, I don't. I usually made up my own, but you can find them online. Like, there's lots of them, and they go to quite late in the 20th century. You can find them.
Yeah.
Um,
Wow.
yeah, in the matrimonial news, they had one out of London, and then they would have like one out of the east coast of the US and one, I think, in Canada. And
Yeah.
yeah, like mostly men advertising for women, but sometimes women advertising for men. It is interesting how much they mostly want young, and there's a lot of
Yeah.
widowers looking for people to look after their kids, basically.
Yeah.
How has your mind shifted at all on the phenomenon of mail order brides from writing this series? Because I feel like there's usually a certain perception that people have of them, but
Yeah.
like you can kind of see how productive it is as a phenomenon when you're reading these books and
Yeah,
how
well,
it means to
I think
people.
the mail order bride economy is so much a big part of those colonies, like here in Australia too,
Yeah.
because there, like you said, there's so much labor to be done. Like, and if
Mm.
you are trying to, plant wheat or run cattle or do whatever a farmer does, corn, I don't know, I'm not a farmer. The farmy things out in the fields, you really don't have time to do all the household labor as well.
Too
And
many
children
cows
are
and
obviously,
saloons.
yeah. And yeah, I mean the economy of it, you really needed a woman at home. Like
Mm.
whether
Mm.
you took your sister or your mother or you married someone,
Mm.
you just had to, there's just no way you could have managed. Like,
I feel like people think the mail order bride economy was problematic, whereas it was more of a pragmatic thing, but then you're seeing how people can find true love through that pragmatic process of
Yeah, it is totally fiction. I mean, think generally, man, people probably did find love, but
I hope so.
generally,
I hope
yeah,
someone did.
I'm sure there were people who found love, but I think that it made the exchange very visible, which I think it
Yeah.
is in all historical fiction, to be fair. Like, I think most historical fiction acknowledges that marriage is an economical choice, but in this, it really, like, I think it was very practical. Like, if you're a woman alone in the world, we forget how hard it was to do anything as a woman, like have bank account, do anything without a man, like a father or a husband. You would get to a point where it would just be practical to have a husband of some kind.
Yeah. It's kind of interesting how then Diana is like a hint of realism in this story because she's got a very practical, not pessimistic, but just like realistic outlook of what's
Yeah.
going to happen with these brides and the
She'll
ads
have to
and
get a book,
everything.
won't she? We'll have to do a book with Diana one
Oh,
day.
surely.
Absolutely.
You write
You're
too
so
many good side
beautiful.
characters, and you're gonna have to do like a million spin-offs
I
on all of
really
those
loved
things.
one of the other women as well who was playing Tess.
Kate.
Test player, love her.
I love
Just
her.
Easter egg. Might be a school mom, people.
When you said school mom, I went, I
Was
know
that one of
school
those?
mom in that world.
I did think when I finished this book, I was like, there's a whole lot of women in Bitterroot.
Yeah, there are now. Yeah.
Convenient.
We are going to have to wrap up because I think it's time.
Oh, look, someone's been watching the clock.
Yeah. Well, someone had to. Otherwise, this would have gone for many, 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 many hours.
Yeah.
Such a
And
beautiful
become
cover
more
too.
unhinged. So gorgeous.
Let's
Stunning.
give a shout
can
out
we
to
talk about how
Alessandra
beautiful it
Sealis
is?
because she is amazing. She's done all the covers and she's just incredible.
Ugh.
My favorite
I
one.
would like to
Color
say
scheme
as
is
well,
incredible.
this level at the front here, I was reading through these and I was like, whoa.
Yeah.
I
Brag.
know, I'm very, very blessed. I like the map though. Show the map because that was a
Yeah,
nice.
that was one of
The
the,
map, especially more.
It's so cute.
and that means with every novel we get to kind of see it grow.
See it grow. We need more pages.
Yes.
I've got my original hand drawn one around somewhere.
Oh,
It does
so
not look that pretty.
Should sign it and frame it and sell
frame
it for
it.
$1 million.
And you can see that from, from the hotel, you can see the whorehouse.
Yeah, right over the road.
Aw.
Going across.
Aw.
Thank you very much for chatting with us
pleasure.
today, Amy Barry.
Yes.
We're
Put on
gonna
a
do our wrap up without you, so
Yeah, I know you get to do book club without me. I'll listen to it after.
yeah.
Oh, yeah.
What are you drinking again? What's the cocktail of the month, guys?
Oh, yeah,
I
Abby,
just
do
want
you
them to
wanna
say
tell us?
it.
Oh, cowboy cocksuckers.
Cowboy cocksucker.
That's it.
I'll say it.
Beau McBride.
Cowboy cocksuckers for Beau McBride.
Well, yes, thank you so much for joining us.
Thanks for having me.
You, Amy.
Yeah.
The next one. We really liked your book.
That was an amazing guy who tried, and you.
I'm so sorry. I didn't realize you were about to start and I was holding that really dumb face.
I'm gonna start
Just found out the truth that Harry hated Seven Brides for Beau McBride.
Who would have thought, right? I feel like Harry's pretty good at pretending.
Yeah,
Well,
such a good actor. Can't trust that guy.
I'm actually straight.
I just heard what you
Anyway, all right.
That's
Are you ready?
on film. We have that on recording.
Oh, shit. Blackmail.
Anyway, what an amazing conversation that was with Amy Barry.
Who would have guessed?
Yeah, who would have thought?
But we can all agree without Amy here, right? That this book is phenomenal, right?
Yes,
my God,
now we
it's
can
so
gush
good.
about it without embarrassing Amy.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Let's get
I
embarrassed.
I always embarrass myself anyway in the sense that I talk about these books all the time to people at work and they think it's just because like I work with Amy and she's my supervisor and I don't know how to convey to them that I genuinely am just a huge fan of Amy Barry Amy Matthews and Tess Lesue. I just love all of her books that much.
Yeah, I normally can't get behind I know we just did Cowboy Month, hands in the air, but I normally can't get behind a lot of the contemporary cowboy romances. Like I've read them, but they're not like I'm not passionate about them in the same way that people who are passionate about them are. But there is something about these books that genuinely, regardless of my connections to Amy, I adore, and I gift them to anyone I'm buying a book for. And it's, like I have bought so many copies of these novels to give
You
other
really
people
have.
to have on my shelves. And it's not for any reason other than I genuinely love the books that much.
I completely agree. I recommended it twice to people actually today because I said, I've really got to get home straight away after work because I've got to interview an author.
Yeah.
And they were like, oh, okay. And they're like, oh, you're going to hate me, but I'm not a big reader. And I was like, you don't happen to like witty, like romance, do you? And they were like, oh, that would probably, romance would be the genre that I would pick up first. And I was like, I'm going to bring you in some books tomorrow. I was like, genuinely, start with Kit McBride because that just swept me off my feet. I remember that ended a reading slump for me. It was just like, I remember it so fondly. And then, I mean, we've been around for all of them now. And it just feels so nice.
You can read them out of order, but I feel like in order is the best way.
I had the best payoffs in this book from having read the last two. And I felt so connected to it because of that. But I agree, it sounds like we're brown nosing. It sounds like you got like fake gushing over something.
But it's
I cannot get enough of them.
As if I'm brown nosing anyway. How else do you get anywhere in this world?
Exactly. Shame.
We've got that on recording now as well. There is something so beautiful though about reading them when you're writing as well. Because I can just appreciate the level of skill that it takes to create people that I care about this much.
Yes.
And I'm like, damn, how did she do it? You know?
We didn't get to talk about it with Amy, but I also feel like there are multiple perspectives in this novel. There are the main two, but you do get Junebug occasionally. And they all have such distinct voices. Like I never read it without thinking I'm in that perspective. You know, sometimes you're reading multiple perspective and you're like, when did we switch? Like, when did we change up? I can't remember when the chapter changed. But this novel, you know.
Does anybody else feel sad now that it's out though, and that like my anticipation?
I'm sad because I know how long it's going to be until the next one, regardless of whether that's a year or not. But like, now I have to wait. But luckily, there are many, many novels you can read from Amy that aren't these novels. They have a different vibe. But Amy Barry also writes under Amy Matthews. If you know this podcast, then you already know that. And also Tess Lesue. So if you want to go back in time, both literally and fictionally, Amy once upon a time wrote under Tess Lesue and has a historical romance series there as well. The
Frontiers of the Heart.
For gritty.
So good.
Yeah. So I hope if you were on the fence about reading this month's book of the month, I hope this interview has convinced you because you have a week to finish it and then we'll have book club next week and then you'll be raving just as much as we are about it.
Oh, and here's a spoiler. If you were on the fence, imagine you're stuck on the fence and a really hot guy teases you about
flirting
it.
with
What
you
would
while
you
you try to
do?
hide your embarrassment.
Find out in Beau McBride.
That was incredible.
That was phenomenal. You should be in marketing.
Amy And is hosted by Amy Matthews, Abby Guy, Payton Hogan, Justina Ashman, Harry Stewart and Millie Heffernan. This podcast is recorded on Gardenland with music by Anthony Wignall and Mass Wisteria. Our logos and branding are designed by Abby Guy. This episode was edited by Payton Hogan.